Hello, everyone. Welcome to Slap Your Small Business YouTube channel. I am your host, Juan Pablo Rivadeneira. And in today's episode of Slap Stories, we have our dear friend, Anyelis Cordero. Before we start, I want to ask you to like this video and subscribe. And with that out of the way, how you doing, Angelis? How you
I'm
doing?
doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I'm very excited.
Thank you for taking the time. Small business owners, I've been working in Silver Lining for a little over 5 years, and I've talked to so many small business owners that I know that taking the time itself as a concept is one of the most precious commodities. And taking the time for you to take the time to talk to us, I really appreciate that. So tell us a little bit tell us and our community, our viewers, anything that you about yourself, anything that you think it's relevant.
Absolutely. So I'm Angelis Cordero. I was actually born in Havana, Cuba, and I came to the US when I was 4 years old as part of a political refugee program. I grew up with my mom, single mom, and we really didn't have a lot of family growing up, which is a big part of why my purpose is tied to my business, and I'll come back to that. But I went to a great public school system in Hudson County, New Jersey, and that led me to college. So I'm the first in my immediate family in the US to go to college, earn a bachelor's degree in behavioral sciences. I had no idea what I was going to do with that. So I went the nonprofit route. I led a women's resource center that was centered on personal and professional development, and quickly realized that nonprofit isn't where you start your career, is where you likely should end your career, especially for someone who is first gen and ambitious, a high achiever like myself. I was there for 4 years until ultimately I realized I should go back to school and pursue a master's. And I did pursue a master's in HR management. I used that to pivot into corporate America, where I spent 10 years having a corporate HR career, dabbling into different areas of human resources like talent acquisition, learning and development, leadership development, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when I landed as the manager of the leadership development programs at a Fortune 50 organization, I thought that was the pinnacle of my career because I loved that kind of work of empowering the next generation of leaders. And of course, the overachiever in me said, well, maybe I should finally launch that coaching business I've always wanted to have, especially when in my 20s, I was so lost and unhappy about what career really aligned with my big ambitions, but also gave me a sense of meaning and joy, and I could make an impact. And because I had finally gotten there, I launched my business on the side, and it was really meant to be career coaching for first generation professionals. Again, people like myself who don't really have a blueprint as they're navigating this lifetime of firsts. And it quickly evolved into being a number of different things. And so, where I am today, Propel and Purpose is a professional development company where we offer HR services to small business owners. Because I realized in throughout the journey that there's a big need, and I have a wealth of experiences in HR in a very structured environment like corporate America that I could bring to small businesses that have less than 50 employees, but really, need to be aligned as it relates to how they hire their employees, how they train their teams, how they build their own leadership. So we offer HR services. We do trainings for teams, and then one-to-one leadership and group coaching for the founders and their leadership team. And then I have this emerging leaders side where I do workshops and keynotes for colleges and universities, and that's really where I still, am able to pay it forward to the next generation of first gens. So I know intimately the challenges that small businesses face because I am a small business owner and I work closely with small business owners. And this really feels the most aligned I have been ever because my business is so values driven, so purpose driven. And because of the work that we do, we get to have an impact on small business owners who then have an impact on their communities and their families. And that's the ripple effect that we all aspire to have.
I love it. You said a couple of things that really caught my attention. The alignment part amongst, I mean, being
Hmm.
aligned, how being aligned, what you think, what you want, the impact you want to have, the reason why you started your business. That alignment is so crucial for, I would argue, for success in anything you do, but especially relevant if you want to be a small business owner. And before we continue, there is a question I want to ask you in this. Um, I started when I was probably 19 years old. My first job, well, actually not my first job. I was way younger. I was a waiter, right? I think everybody starts with a small job like that.
Yeah.
Yet my first, let's say, formal job was in a nonprofit itself, and I love that world,
Yeah.
and I loved it so much. I'm not in nonprofits anymore, but you made a very interesting comment. That's where you want to end up your career. That's not where you want to start. If you don't mind, what do you mean by that? Could you go a little bit deeper?
Yeah. Absolutely. So here in America, in a capitalist society, the reality is that you need to earn income, and what the research tells us is that you're better off financially if you start with a higher paying job when you're younger, because you're earning more money, you're able to save more for retirement, you're able to invest, and compound interest. That means that you have uh, you're more economically advanced. And I would say the underlining purpose of my business is to create more economic equity in the world, especially for those of us that are the first, because by virtue of being first, it typically means that we don't have access to all of these resources, especially here in America, where a college degree gives you access to higher paying opportunities, more professional opportunities, right? And so, what I mean by that is that we tend to, especially women and underrepresented groups, we tend to go towards like the caring careers that are typically the most underpaid. And what does that do? That lessens our ability to grow economically. And so I experienced that. I graduated from college and I was making $40,000. And $40,000 seemed like so much money because as an immigrant kid growing up in a working class community, my mom never made that kind of money. And so it seems like a lot, but then the reality quickly hit between helping pay for rent and groceries and student loans and all of these things. I didn't have a lot left over for investments, retirement, all of these things. And so when I say it's where you end your career, the other part of that is also that I think it's important to gain really critical life experiences so that you can make an impact in those organizations that tend to be under resourced, right? So it's what I have found in my experience and that of many of my peers is that if you're having financial challenges, it becomes a little bit more difficult to do that sort of work too, like to work for an organization that is typically under resourced. But if you do that later on in your career, when you have all of these experiences, you have a greater network that you can tap into that can invest in these organizations. You have more knowledge and experiences that you can, give as a form of resource. You're giving that intellectual knowledge. Um, and you probably have more time because you're grinding in the first couple of years of your career and trying to figure it out. So I have been really involved in nonprofits as a volunteer, as a board member, and that is how I still am involved in causes that are really meaningful to me, like empowering first generation college students and women's organizations. But I'm doing it as a volunteer, as opposed to this is also where my livelihood comes from. I think that it's really important to set ourselves up to have that economic mobility.
That was very well put very well broken down. And if you ask me, our viewers take note because that's just free advice that I at least gave you right there and then. Thank you. How do you, so in your journey, from what you've been telling me, it's been a very transformative journey, like very intentional as well.
Yeah.
In this journey, when do you hear about SLAP and how do you live your plans, your vision? How did SLAP fit into that vision?
So I learned about SLAP in 2021 through my dear friend, and I consider him a mentor, Eduardo Placer, who was a Slapster. And at the time, SLAP was running the Small Business NYC campaign. And he's like, I think you would be great for this. So I applied. I remember I was going through the info session while I was in Cancun, Mexico on like a vacation. I was like, guys, I can't miss this. While everybody else is having fun, I'm like in the lounge area in a Tulum place. Actually, we were in Tulum, not Cancun. And it's really important for me to learn about the program. And I applied, I got accepted. And since then, I've had access to a mindset coach, different business coaches, Slap microloan, and the wonderful Slap tool. I love how the Slap dashboard really breaks down the strategy of your business. So for those who are not familiar with it, you set up for the year. Well, first of all, you have to be very clear on like who is your ideal client avatar, who is it that you're selling for, because you shouldn't be selling to everybody. You want to be more clear and specific on what problems are you solving and for whom. And then it breaks down your business budget and your personal budget, because as a business owner, one is feeding the other, correct? Like part of having a business is so that it can support and sustain my livelihood. And then it tells you your break even number, so it crunches all of those numbers for you, which is really great. I'm more of a visual person. It's great to see that. And then you go through your services and you have to price it accordingly to meet those numbers. And then it breaks it down per quarter. So every quarter, okay, if you're trying to make 100K, let's say 120K, so it's more even, then that means that every quarter you have to make 30K. And so then you have to look at your services, and according to how you set it up, how many of what services do you have to sell within that particular quarter in order to meet your quarterly goal, to meet your annual goal. So I think many small business owners can probably relate to having a vision and an idea and wanting to have an impact. The finance part, the business, like that breakdown, isn't always something that we're taught. And even when you start a business and you learn that, I found the way that Slap does it to be really beneficial and to give you that overview so that then you can follow the plan. It makes it easier to follow the plan. It takes the guesswork out of it. You just keep the consistent actions and then you can meet those goals. At least that has been my experience, especially in the last year when I was probably the most consistent with doing that, is when I saw the most growth in my business.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I would argue financial education is something that there's a lack of that in the world. And,
Absolutely.
and not only that, but like the deeper you go into that financial subject, gets more and more complicated to
Mm-hmm.
where you're talking about like financial products that are might as well just be hieroglyphs. Like you can't understand anything, right? And uh, that that disconnect, right? Like it doesn't have to be that complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Exactly.
as long as your goal is measurable, realistic, audacious, focus on profit, and then and by measurable we mean like time bound. Like you just said, hey, the goal is X amount of money. How does that mean for the week? What does that mean for the month? What does that mean for the quarter? What does that mean in terms of income streams, like you said, right? If I sell shoes and I want to hit a specific financial goal, how many shoes do I have to sell to meet that? That itself is, I would agree, one of the best amongst the good benefits that you could get from proper planning. I 100% agree with you on that. Um,
Exactly. And if I could just chime in, what's so important about that is that, and I've seen this happen, and this was, I think, where I was at the beginning, that if you are not strategizing in that way, then you don't really have a business, you have a passion project. Because if it's not making the financial goals that you set it out to, then it's not really a business. And so it's so critical for us to learn those financial models and the breakdown and to really execute against that, because that's how you run a sustainable business.
I love it. I love this conversation we're having. By the way, shout out to Eduardo Placer. He's
Yes,
amazing. He's amazing. Great voice. He always lights up the room. He's amazing.
he is one of my favorite humans. Love him.
Now, if you had the chance, you have answered this already in a way during this conversation, but I want to give you the chance. I want to give us have the chance to say it like directly, if you were talking to yourself back then, which basically means talking to other small business owners who might be in that position, thinking about starting a business, seeing what the risks are, maybe feeling a little bit of second thoughts, what would you say to yourself at that moment in time, or other small business owners who are in that position?
Great question. Speaking from my personal experience, we're again growing up with not a lot of resources. There's a bit of a money mindset that you create, and some of these things can give you anxiety or give you pause, or it's difficult to navigate because you're not used to having these conversations, or you don't have certain knowledge, and then you have to admit that you don't have that knowledge, and you're like, what do you mean? I have 2 degrees, how do I not know this? And we beat ourselves up a lot because we sort of expect to know how to navigate this journey, but it's like any journey, there's a learning curve, and there's a period where there's a lot that we have to learn in order to do this effectively. So I would have told myself to lean into this community and to follow the method, because it's a proven method, right? Which has been around for a long time. Thank you so much to Clarissa, the founder. And one thing that she says that has always stayed with me, she often talks about the small business dilemma of feeling like you don't have enough time and we don't have enough money as a business owner. But it takes time to make money, and making more money gives you more time back. And so I feel like by leaning into the method and the community and the resources, the skill that has helped me break through that dilemma has been using that Slap dashboard consistently and week over week. Like Mondays are my business operations day, where like I try not to schedule any client meetings, and I work on the behind the scenes. And one of the first things that I do is look through my Slap and see where I am stacking against those goals. And then I keep my own like P&L and my itemized tracking, and I'm looking at the financial health of my business. And then if I'm not close, then I have to look at, well, where's money coming in this month? Where are the leads? And that's a skill to build. And sales feels a little bit scary, and for a lot of people it feels icky because, oh, I don't know, I don't want to feel like I'm forcing people, or like I'm being salesy. But you're running a business, so you have to learn how to sell. You have to know how to, you know, convert a lead into a paying customer. And that starts with like being realistic about what are the numbers telling me, and where am I falling short, and how do I close that gap. So I would encourage all small business owners to really learn about the financial aspect of it. And when there is a community like Slap, and that you get a chance to be a part of it, to really lean in and follow the method.
Very well said. Thank you very much, Anyelis. Um, yeah, again, I want to thank you. You just brought up, and this is interesting. I've been talking to a lot of small business owners for Slap stories, and what you just said right now comes up a lot. It's like a frequent thing, like time, time, time. I always take that opportunity to thank you for taking the time, right, to sit down and talk with me. How might our audience find you? Your webpage, social media handles, how can they find you?
Absolutely. So my website is propelandpurpose.com. I typically hang out on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn through my name, Anyelis Cordero. And you can always reach out over email. I'm always happy to have conversations with small business owners. I have been incredibly lucky, and I'm so grateful that I've had people in my community, in my network, who have had conversations with me and who have connected me to different resources. And that's how we, pay it forward to each other. So I'm always happy to have those conversations with people, because I have been the beneficiary of so many great conversations and so many resources like this one, like Eduardo connected me to. So you can always reach me at hola@propelandpurpose.com. And I wish all Slapsters and all small business owners so much luck, and I hope that your business still gives you that sense of joy that you intended it to as you created. And if there's a missing piece, like definitely let's talk, because there's a values misalignment that is happening, and we can resolve that so that you can continue to propel on purpose.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Anyelis, for your time. This has been Slap Stories. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more news. And hopefully we'll feature you again, Anyelis, and see where we are down the line. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
You too, and bye, everybody. I'll see you in our next episode.